No, Americans do not view Great Britain and British people the same way British people view Americans. The reality is Americans don't really think about Great Britain or British people much at all, but when we do, it's generally very favorable. Right here we have the ratings of 86% to very or mostly favorable for Great Britain. Now, when we compare that to how other countries view the United States of America, the UK has a 54% favorability, but a 45% unfavorability. Like, here's the thing. Yeah, a majority does find the US favorable, but a very, very large minority finds it unfavorable. But the most interesting thing about this poll is it seems that Western Europe actually has some of the most negative views of America. We get into Eastern Europe with Poland, and they love America. We go to Asia, for the most part, they love America. Australia, what's going on there? We actually love you guys. The Middle East mostly dislikes us with the exception of Israel, but we'll keep that for another day. Africa seems to love us, and South America actually seems to love the United States. But what about stereotypes of British people here in America? For example, we know that British people think that America is vulgar, uncultured, ignorant, and uncaring, and preoccupied with money, and all of these things. So what about how Americans view British people? Do we have any stereotypes of British people? Yes, we do, but the overwhelming majority of them are positive. And I think the reason for this is most Americans' experience with British people only comes from media, so movies, television, and music. And in almost all of that, the British people are portrayed as highly intelligent, sophisticated, well-mannered, well-dressed, and everything else. Think about James Bond. That's how a lot of average Americans view British people. And even the media equivalent of an almost negative perception of British people, think Giles from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. However, it's still mostly positive. He's just considered kind of boring because he's British, but he's still highly intelligent, highly sophisticated, well-spoken, and well-dressed. But I think the American stereotypes of British people and the British stereotypes of American people are equally as false on the whole. They're just kind of inverted. But it comes from Americans just really not paying attention to us, to the UK, and really having kind of a fantasy view of how Great Britain functions. And that might be an explanation for why the British royal family has overall overwhelmingly positive opinions from the average American. And being that this was a country that was founded on a revolution to get away from the British monarchy, the fact that so many Americans are favorable of it is actually a little bit ironic if we're being completely honest. But why is there this big difference between American and British perceptions? Well, it's quite simple. America is the cultural hegemony. It's the most powerful economy in the world and the most influential country in the world. So Americans, if anything, we tend to pay attention to our own things because we are more so the center of that attention. To where the British, they used to be that center of attention because they used to have the biggest empire in the world. And then they saw their former colony, the United States of America, surpass them in almost every objective metric. Now, on the internet, I understand you guys have created an entire worldview where it's Americans that are coming after you, not you coming after us Americans. But in reality, it's almost always Americans responding to British people talking shit about Americans, and then you guys cry foul when we say something back. And this isn't just me. This is many other accounts. This happens on Bloxcast's page as well, and it happens on pretty much anyone that actually addresses this. Not to mention, if we make a joke about beans on toast, we all know what joke you guys are going to make next, and it's the same joke every time.